Okay, I'm perfectly aware of how wild this is going to sound, and I know it's really dim because it's dark, and that's the only light I have right now. But this is really important because not only do I know this to be how it is, I experienced it. And everyone will experience this, so I need to try to put it into words. We think the world is a physical place. Like, in one sense it is. We're here, we feel it, so we're people, and we believe it's the world. But here's the thing that I don't think anyone else has been able to put into words. Anyone that experienced the oneness of God or the universe or source or whatever we call it. It is magic. It is beautiful. It is the most wonderful thing you could imagine. And then some. But we have been so confused because no one figured it out right. And I'm not going to put all these extra words and terminologies into stuff about science and discoveries and explorers and all that stuff. Great. Every good thing, every bad thing, every war, every blessing, everything we've ever had is all just ideas and concepts, and we've lived them out in physical life. So let's picture water, okay, and space. Space is not even there. When you're not in a human body or in any body that has eyeballs, there is no darkness out there. There are no stars in the sky. Those are things that we conceptually see through our eyes. And the physical universe has created itself through thought. Thought and belief are the words we would have for it. But I'm going to use this as a symbol of a circle, because if you would drop something in the center of a bucket of water, the center would hit, the drip would go like this, evenly, and it hits the outside and then bounces back in. And it comes back in and goes bloop and back down and makes another thinner, smaller circle, and then comes back to the center. Well, space, we conceptualize things like that because we've seen water. And this is a timeless place where everything can happen at the same time to explain itself through constant updating of memory. There is blank space, and in space, the idea of a drop of water hits blank space and it echoes out like this through thought. Like when you have something, it comes from the inside. It comes from the inside, okay? We see this physically. Here's the earth. That's this ball of, when something would bounce out and come back in, those waves will eventually meet. The out wave and the in wave from the initial spark. What we call our axis in space is like a initial hit into the water when it causes the ripple. But the ripple itself has no end on the borders. Space is infinite, and it's slowly expanding. And as it expands, that's the consciousness part. It hits in the center of space. This is space. This is the best way I can explain it. And I know it's really, really wild and odd for someone to try to explain this, but it's because I was there, and I am there. When I get into the right space, when I can quiet my mind and be in that oneness, that wholeness, it's not a feeling like I'm imagining it. It's not a feeling like I'm coming up with something creative. It's not a visualization technique or a cool sensation. It's a knowing. It's like when you go away for a vacation or you go away for a long time in a different place and you go back to where you grew up, and it's like home. That's where you were. That's where you know to be. That's what it is. This is exactly how this feels. And everyone, when they pass away, what seems to be the end of their life in the physical world, is just easing back into that wholeness of everything. So picture this circle, because when it goes out and it comes back, boop. See, we explain things like that as reverberations and space and da-da-da-da. So because the way we explain it, we've created the idea of galaxies and universes and da-da-da. And they show up physically because we are that powerful. We convey thought. And thought is always updating itself. Constantly updating itself. Like memory. So that's why we use this computer analyzation, comparison that we do. But it's so much more than a freaking computer. It's It's so much more than the word God. It's so much more than the concept of magic. It is everything that we are experiencing on a day-to-day basis, and then some, that we think is the history, that we think can be the future. And the more we think it can and believe that deep in our hearts and souls, not the kind of belief where someone says, hey man, and they tell you a story and you're like, yeah, I believe you, and deep down you might not. And you tell them you do, and they think you do. So therefore they believe that you believe in them. Well, if you don't really, then their belief is only half-assed, and it's wholly on their part half-assed that you think that you believe in them. Like, there's this deep down, like if someone says, I grew up here, and they didn't, you can just tell a little bit of it. Maybe you can't. I'm not going to even use that as a comparison. But you know what I mean, like the feeling that you get when you go home and you know you're there. You know where you're at. This is, I feel familiar here. Everyone will feel this familiarness when they understand what I'm talking about. It's like, the best way I can put it, I typed it down here because it's too odd. The best way I can put it is that we dream spiritually, but spirit dreams physically. So we're the physical dream of spirit, and spirit is the spiritual dream of physical. But it's the reverber. It's like the back and forth. That's how echo works. How would echo, when it comes back, is land. It lands in, okay, when we come back, it hits this, boom, and there's a circle. That causes the idea of circular patterns of moons, stars, suns, even though, moons and stars and stuff are just big burning balls of gas, but they're balls, they're circles, because we have this idea of that. But that's because the thought spark, like here's this first one, boom, that's going infinitely into space, and it never hits a border and bounces back. But because we think that space is infinite, maybe we can analyze it, or somebody conceptualized it as it bounces out and it bounces back, and then as it's doing that, another one hits and is going out as this one's coming back, and they meet each other, and here they cause different waves that filter out in different dimensions and filter out in different ways. And that's sort of how it works with, because we're thinking up, down, left, right, maybe the shape of an asterisk. But let's think of an asterisk in 3D. But that shape also put in 3D. If you could do 3D on top of 3D, what, 9D? Let's not be silly with all these terminologies. 9D, 3D, all these dimensions and quasimodo physicalities, and let's go neurotransmitters and quantum physics and the theory of the string theory. We have to stop trying so hard to explain what it is, and what it is what I'm saying. Not because everyone else is wrong, but because they're putting it too much into their personal thought. I've given up who I am. I come back to my personality so that I can build I'm doing exactly what I should do as a human being in life, in every term, in every way. And because of that, it's so odd to everyone else, and I used to not be like this at all, that my own family, my kids, they don't want to spend time with me because it's that odd. And I'm aware of that. But this is important for everyone to know, including them. So it's not like I'm putting everybody first. And by doing that, my kids have a father who is doing great in life. Whether I have money to show for it, or friends and status and material things, that doesn't matter. What matters is if people know the truth. So when they die, they're not afraid. They go back into that wholeness. Like, here's the circle of Earth, and here's how it works. There's a barrier of, here's this circle of Earth that we have made as an idea of a round spot. And if it was flat, then it's a freaking pancake like this, but flat. I doubt that. And because it's just physical, it doesn't matter. There is no real answer to that question. Round or flat, who cares? We're here. Okay, so you go from that and think about, you have this circle. When a thought comes, it's like an invisible, it's the unseeable of that center of the earth, the material, the mineral, the stuff that we grow from, the earth. It resonates out with a light, non-seeable haze of thought that's vibrating around it. And basically we rise out of the ground, and that thought pattern is already here in our bubble, because we've created that in our mind right now, always. We keep updating it, And the more people that keep coming out of this thing, it's another living. Okay, as this piece rolls out of the ground and evolves into something, it can be anything from a plant, an animal, a human being, and then those are the basic things that come from the ground. And then what we, plants, animals, and human beings do, the plants produce more physical material. We take that physical material and break it down into other material, and then either, unfortunately, somehow we've invented the idea of negative, so we add toxins and impure things to it, but everything had to come from somewhere. So there's nothing that's impure except for the intention someone put into it at first. And when they had the intention of spreading this thing out so they can get more of it, so they can make more money off of other people and better themselves and not others, that's when the mind created evil and bad and greed, and we created it. And we created it in such an old time when our minds weren't so intelligent that we couldn't understand what I'm saying now. Like Jesus and Buddha and all those great people, all those great living beings that were here in this physical world were trying to say this. But they didn't have internet, and they didn't have the intellectual abilities we have now. So I am in no way trying to put anybody down. Everybody will understand what I'm saying, whether they get it from me or not. They can go through Jesus, and they can go through Buddha, and they can go through Krishna, and they can go through Lord Shiva. They can do whatever they want. Those are all just beings that came from here trying to say the same thing I'm trying to say, but in their own way. And most of them had a little bit of, leftover idealisms from where they came from, or where they grew up, or how time was at that point. Because I can't say they didn't know how to let it go, but they didn't know how to put it into words either. Because there's only words. There's only words. And everyone who believes those concepts, it's right. And everyone who doesn't believe those concepts, it's not. Because this person says, I can do it like this. This is how you juggle. Over, under, catch, over, under, catch. And the other one says, I just go like at the same time and catch them. I just learned how. And you do it in different ways. And some person can't do a certain thing the same steps as someone else. And other people can do it the same way if they follow it, procedure exactly. So it's not the fact that what they're saying is wrong through religions or spiritual practices. It's just that it's not complete. There's more to it. There's that underlined, there is no space, there is no time, there is no any of this. But at the same time, there is, because we created it. And we're that magically powerful. Like, we are the creator, as in what God is when you die, you go back to that oneness and source. So God's not like, hey, guess what? Hey, I want to tell you something. It's not like that. There's no spirits waiting to talk to you and hold your hand and be like, you're okay, my child. That is, our minds created other realms. Because before there was physical world, there was all those realms, causing these thoughts to in a timelessness fashion, updating without physical life. So that is where you tap into that and you update the spiritual mind. Whatever you want to call it, the universal consciousness, the universal subconsciousness, the subconscious mind. That's basically what it is. It's that pure, innocent, created, non-created, void, blank sheet canvas of space. And it's not really dark and stars and whatever. That's how we see it through our eyes. That's how we magically, wonderfully, amazingly see life through our eyes. And this is the truth. And I love you guys. And I'm not crazy. I can not talk about this stuff if nobody wants to know what happens to us when we die. And I can go, stay by myself and live life properly. And I'm not going to take part in watching a whole bunch of blood and gore and violence and nudity and lust. It doesn't mean that I don't love people and I don't find passion, compassion, and wonder amazing. But violence, action doesn't have to include stabbing each other and shooting each other down and being hard and kicking ass. It doesn't need that. In fact, we fuck things up by doing that. The swear words aren't what matter. The intention behind the words is what matters. Sound. Swear words are just sounds. That's a sound. We just happen to put it in an organized fashion. And then we started believing what everyone's saying because they make a lot of sense. Well, you're intelligent. You make a lot of sense. I'll believe what he says anytime. We just blindly jump into everything. I'm not asking you to just completely believe what I'm saying right off the top right now. I just want you to look into it for yourself. You can find out what I'm saying right now while you're alive. You just have to give up all the crap. And you don't have to give it all up, but you have to give up thinking about, for a period of time, let go of what your life is and realize that you're more than all your titles. Let go of that. Find a place to silence everything. Keep your body still your mind by not allowing extra thoughts to come in. And that's the part that takes practice. You have to be dedicated to finding out to find out. You can't just close your eyes and take 4 breaths. Oh, I've experienced the world. No, it doesn't work like that. I mean, right now you are physically experiencing the world. But there's a way to mentally, spiritually, and consciously experience what we are. Not the world, because that's a word too. Think about everything I'm saying. I mean, listen to this over and over and see what I mean. I love you. Peace.